Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. We're going through our series on single sourcing in MadCap Flare, and we're going to talk about snippets in this video. Snippets are they're super cool. They're really important. You are going to want to use snippets. What these are, it's just chunks of formatted content that you can reuse in lots of places throughout your project. So, I mean, just think about the times in the past when you've created documentation and how many times did you have places, maybe you're working on a Word document or something like that, kind of a long one. And there are several places where you're thinking, this is the same thing I had way up on page 12. I keep using this thing over and over, and you just are copying and pasting the thing. And that can become a problem, especially if you had different Word documents and the same content, because you might remember to go back and edit one, but not the other. And so one document is up to date, one document isn't. And so this is where snippets come in. So in Flare, you're able to create these little files that have formatted content, and then you can insert them in lots of topics, lots of places in your Flare project. So you're just maintaining things in one place. And if you have to edit it, it makes the change everywhere. So absolutely essential. Now I'm going to talk about a lot of things in this video on the subject of snippets. What I usually do is I'll start out with more basic information about it, creating snippets. So, you know, what are the main things that you need to do with them? And then as the video goes on, it'll get more and more advanced and just more information that maybe isn't evident, right on the surface. So you can hover over the play bar, see what those sections are, skip ahead, whatever you want to do. But we are going to begin by looking at how you create snippets, and then we'll just continue from there. So let's do this. Now, the main things that you'll do with snippets is create them, insert them, and edit them. And so we're going to begin by looking at how you can create snippets, which is really, really easy. And you do have a couple of different options about how to do it. I have a tiny little Flare project open here, and a snippet is a separate file, just like a topic is a separate file, an image is a separate file, and all these things in your Flare project are separate files. So I could add one just like I add any of those types of files. I could go to the project ribbon and select new. And what do I want to add? I want to add a snippet. So click that. And you get this dialog, give it a name. I'm just going to keep new snippet down here. And then you choose where you want it to go. Now, right now, I don't have any snippets. And this is the default location where Flare wants you to put it. It recommends that you put it. You don't have to put it here. So the resources, and then under that, the snippet subfolder. And I don't even have a snippet subfolder yet. Flare will create it on the fly for me as soon as I click add. You can put snippets anywhere you want in the Content Explorer, just like you can put any files anywhere you want. But we do recommend that you put them under resources, because it's just a good way to keep them organized, keep these extra files separate from your topics, and keep it all organized. So I'm going to click add. It adds my new snippet, and I get this. This is it right here. It's an FLSNP extension. Gives me this little bit of dummy text. If I expand resources, there's my new snippets folder. And there it is. It put it right there. So I quickly created a snippet like that. But I'll tell you, I never do that. I never use this method, because what I do is I normally am creating a snippet. As I'm writing, I'll recognize, oh, I think I'm going to use this content in multiple places. And so I create the snippet from content that's already there. So I'll open up another topic in here, FAQs. And so I've got a couple of paragraphs in here. Now, you can create snippets with any kind of content that can go into into a regular topic. So I've got text here, I've got a heading. I could see insert an image. I'm just going to drag one over here. Well, I'm going to do a different one. I'll do that one right there. All right, so I've got these couple of paragraphs and that right there. Anything that you want. So I could highlight content. I could highlight this entire paragraph if I just wanted that paragraph to be a snippet, or I could use my structure bar, right click, select create snippet. In the case of highlighting, you would highlight it, and then on the home ribbon, you'd select create snippet. Or I could do an individual sentence within and create snippet. Or if I've got multiple blocks, like in this case, select my paragraph and my image and click create snippet. So I'll create one from this, and I'll just call this, I'm going to call this FAQ stuff. And it's going to put it again right here in there, and it lets you see a preview of what you've selected. And then you have this checkbox down here, which is on by default. What it's going to do is, not only is it going to create the snippet on the fly, but it's going to replace this content. It's going to insert the snippet right away. I pretty much always have this enabled because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create and insert the snippet. So I'm going to click create, and it inserted it. Okay, so if I go look over here, there's my new snippet, and you can see it's inserted. Once a snippet is inserted into a topic, you can't click in there and edit it because it doesn't exist in this file. It exists in this other file. And I know it's a snippet because I have markers on and I see this bracket around it. And I could, if I turned my markers off right here, then you wouldn't see the bracket. It just looks like any other text. You just know it's a snippet because you look at the structure bar and it says this is a snippet block, and I can't click in it and do anything with it. Okay, I'm actually going to turn my markers back on. I like to know where my snippets and other things are. You're going to probably end up with a lot of snippets over time, and you don't have to just keep them in the root folder like this. You can and probably will create subfolders. Just click there and type stuff, and I can move snippets in here. I'll click and drag that and update my links so that it doesn't break because the topic is pointing to that snippet and I want it to still show up. I don't want it to be broken. So you can organize like that. In fact, I'll show you my big project and kind of show you what I do with a big project. So in my real project, this big project that I've just created years and years and years ago, and I have a whole bunch of snippets because I've just accumulated them over the years. So if I open up my snippets folder, I will organize my things according to the different products that I've got to document. And then you open one of those, for example, the Flare one, and it takes just a moment to open because I've got so many in here. And you can see I've got lots and lots of subfolders and maybe subfolders within subfolders all over the place. And then I also have I have this shared subfolder because some snippets go into multiple they're appropriate for multiple products. So I definitely organize my snippets because it would be too hard to find things, too hard to maintain this if I just put everything at the root folder at the snippet within this snippets folder. So how big should snippets be? Well, there isn't any rule to it. They could be really small like this. They could be much larger. Usually when I create snippets, on average, I would say it's maybe a paragraph or two, about that size, but I have tiny little snippets, not that many. Usually if it's just, for every possible combination of words, you don't want to create a snippet for, but Sometimes it makes sense. I have at the end of processes, steps, I'll have a click and then a picture of the save button. And that's in a whole bunch of places. And so I create a snippet from that. And so it's just one word in the little image. So I'll have a little image or a little snippet. And then it goes all the way up to, I might have a snippet that consumes all of the content in a topic, maybe except for the H1. Just do what makes sense to you. You can always create big snippets, little snippets. You can break it up into multiple snippets. It's really, you'll find your way as you're working through your project. Another thing that you can do is you can create nested snippets or snippets within snippets. So this one right here, this FAQ stuff, well, I could, and this happens a lot of times, I could put another snippet within here. So I could create maybe this last sentence right here. I'll create, let's see, first word of that is that. So I'll just do that and click create. There's a snippet within a snippet. So we created some snippets, but you're also going to spend a lot of time inserting snippets because you'll have existing snippets and you'll get to a place in your documentation and think, oh, I already got a thing for that. Let me just insert that. So this is going to be a real quick and easy lesson right here. All right, so I've got this topic open. Let's say that I decide, oh, I need a snippet in here. I want to insert it. So how do you do that? Okay, again, a couple of different ways. Let's say that I want to insert that FAQ stuff snippet within here. So what I can do is just get to the location where I want to insert it. I can go to insert and come over here on the right under single source. There's snippet variable and I select snippet. And it will open up the dialog, and then I just go look for it. And I know it's under resources, snippets, and I put it there. It gives me a little preview of it, so I know all is good, and click OK. And it inserts it right into that location. I could do the same thing by using this little button right here. This is the same thing. It's just that it's in the local toolbar because this is a real common task. And you could even click the drop down and you can see, all right, here's some recently used snippets, and I could select one from there. So this one right there, okay, it inserted it in line with that what's new heading. I'm going to undo that. And you might decide, wow, I'm using that feature a whole lot. Maybe I want to add it up here to my quick access toolbar. So you can do that. You can just go to the snippet button, select add to quick access toolbar, and then it's right there. So you can quickly get to it. What I like to do a lot is drag the snippet files in. So let me add a new paragraph here, and I could come down here and there's my new snippet, and I could just click and drag that right in. There I go. I've got the new snippet inserted. So very, very simple. Now, something that we want to talk about before we get into editing snippets is the difference between text and block snippets. And that is going to be, it's important information to know because you might be inserting snippets and wondering, why does it look this way? Why does this snippet look this way and this other snippet look a different way? So we're going to talk about text and block snippets next. In a Flare project, you can create text snippets and you can create block snippets. So a text snippet is really designed to be in line with other content. And so that's why it's called text, because it only takes up, so much room. It's just text. Doesn't mean it only contains text. Maybe you have a little image in there or something like that, but it's really inline. And then there's a block snippet, which it is designed so that it takes up all of the space in that area. You can't or you shouldn't put other content in with that. And I think as we look at this, it's going to make sense. You're going to see it and go, oh yeah, text and block. So let's take a look at our project again. Now, text snippets and block snippets, how they become one of those two, it depends, number one, on how you create the snippet and how you insert it into content. So for example, how you create it. When I created this snippet right here, that was, it was just, see where, yeah, it's right here. When I created this snippet, I just highlighted text that was within a paragraph in here. And so when it created it, if we open it up, look at the structure bars over here, HTML body, that's it. It's not a paragraph, it's not a list, it's not an image, it's not a div, it's none of those things. You go into a regular topic and you see HTML body, but then you see all these tags. H1, we've got these snippets in here, we got paragraphs down here. But this one was created in such a way that I didn't tell it to use a paragraph, and so it didn't. And so if I were to go back into a topic and I just dragged this, I inserted it into just this empty area, which happens to have a paragraph tag, drag that in there. You can see what the markers are doing, the brackets around it. It is treating it as a text snippet. And so I can click after it and I can type. All right. And that's because of the nature of how the snippet was formed. Whereas this one right here, new snippet, when I created that, I added it. By default, it is just a paragraph. And so if I were to go in here and I were to drag that snippet into this blank paragraph, it would be a block snippet. And I know it's a block snippet because I got the bracket here and then way over here, and I can't click on either side and add content. It's taken up all the space. It is a block snippet. And of course, some snippets are blocks because of their nature, like this one right here. It is meant to have multiple blocks, a paragraph, and a paragraph with an image in it within that. And that would look really goofy if I tried to insert that as a text snippet and drag it right here in front of that one. And you see that isn't the way this thing is designed to look. I've got my paragraph up here and then my snippet. It's all trying to work it in line, and it's not really designed that way. So I could insert some snippets into an existing block, but others like this one where it's already got multiple blocks in it, yeah, just don't do that. This one right here, if I click that and I drag that somewhere in here, okay, that one makes more sense because it's just it was one block and it was just text, and that's okay. Okay, so if you understand that, then that's going to help you a lot understand why some snippets look that, a certain way and other snippets a different way. Also, the styling, it might be different when you are inserting these snippets. For example, I'm going to create real quickly a little list here, like a numbered list, like I'm doing some steps. I'll do step 1, step 2, and step 3. A list is a good way to illustrate this because it has multiple parts to it. I've got this list. It's an ordered list. So it's an OL tag. And then within that, I've got LI. That is a list item. And then depending on how you set up your list, you could by default have a paragraph within each LI. And you could remove those too. You don't have to use that. I could right click my OL and say, make them simple items. And so I don't have the paragraphs within them. Or I could just right click on one of these, maybe the middle one, and say, make that a simple item. So I only get it on, the paragraph tag on a couple. Well, why is this important? Well, it has to do with whether you are inserting snippets, how you're inserting them in here, and what kind of snippets they are, and the styling that is used for it. Now, in this little project, my text in my list looks a lot like the text in a regular paragraph. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change to it, and so that the styling for a list by default just looks different. So I'm going to actually go in here. I'm going to go down to style class, edit style class, because I want to change my OL tag. And I'm going to come down here to that. And in the real world, maybe there would be some slight difference with the font, but I'm probably not going to put red on it or something. But to make it stand out here, I could make that red. I could even make it bold in here, any grade of bold. And save that and come back. And so that's how it is designed to look. But if I have a conflicting settings on paragraph, so I'm going to come down here to paragraph, and let's make this blue, and we'll make the font weight normal in here. All right. Come back. Yeah, of course I made a mistake. I put the blue on the font and not on the color, because I do stuff like that. Come back in here. And so now it looks different. Of course, my regular paragraph text is blue, but I also have blue up here. I've got my red numbers because that's just part of the list. But because I have these paragraph tags in here, these are blue, because the thing that is closest to the source is going to win. And the paragraph is the most inward tag in here. If I were to make that a simple item, right, like that, okay, now it's red. So why is that important? Well, actually, let's go back and change that one. So if I were to insert one of these snippets in here, let's insert this new snippet one, because it has a paragraph tag in it. And I'm going to insert that. Okay, because it has that paragraph tag in it, it's blue. So within the LI tag is my snippet, and within that snippet, I've got a blue paragraph. I've got a paragraph, which because of the style, it is blue. Let's undo this. This one right here doesn't have any tag on it. And so if I were to drag that in, that's going to be red, because I don't have any paragraph tag in here that's telling it otherwise. So that's an important thing to know about snippets, that depending on how you create them, what kind of snippets they are, and what you're inserting those snippets into, that can affect the look and behavior of that snippet content. We've created snippets and inserted them, and the next thing is you're going to need to edit snippets sometimes, because things change and you got to go add content or remove it or just modify it. But one of the big issues is, okay, if you end up with just a lot of snippets, I mean, thousands and thousands, one of the issues is finding them so that you can edit them. So let's go in and take a look. In this little project, it's not a big deal, because I know that I can just come over here on the left to my Content Explorer, open up a snippet and edit away. Whatever I can do in a topic, I can do in a snippet. But let's go to my project. This big project, as you can see, I've got thousands of snippets in here. And if I want to edit one, all right, I know that I've got, for example, the snippet that I talked about earlier, where I use it at the end of steps, and it's the word save and then the image of the save button, and or the word click and then the image of the save button. So one thing you can do is you can use this quick launch field up here in the upper right. Just come up, and I know that it begins with the word save. So I just start typing, and you can see commands that match that word show up at the top, and then files at the bottom. And I keep typing, and I have so many files in here that have the word save. And I know that I use a hyphen or a dash in there, and then the word all. Okay, once I get down there, all right, I've got my save all button. I've got save all files, my snippet, and I've got save all option. So the one that I know that I want is this one. So I can open that, or that's actually a different one. It should have been the other one. But anyway, that shows you how to get to a particular snippet, to find it. The trick there is that you really need to know what is in the name. I think it was, it's save file. That was the one I was looking for. So you can see you kind of need, this is the one I'm talking about. Just so actually I have more words than just the word click, but it's a tiny little snippet in here. And if I needed to find that and make a change, I could do that. Now, another pointer for finding a snippet, let's go back to the small project. And I have a topic here. If you happen to have a topic open that has a snippet in it, if you're somewhere else, you might even be on the project organizer, something like that, and you're looking at this topic and you go, I want to edit this snippet. Well, you don't have to go over to the left and open up the Content Explorer and drill down and find the thing. And you don't have to use the quick launch. One other thing you could do is just right click on that snippet and select Open Snippet File. And there it is. And if you want to know where it is in the Content Explorer because you need to do something on it, right click, locate in Explorer, and there it is. So just a real quick tip there on how to get to this stuff quicker than trying to drill down through folders and lots of subfolders. Another thing I want to point out when you are editing snippets is you might have a snippet that always has a particular condition on it. So let's go out here. I have this line of text right here. For more information, see the online help. Let's create a snippet from that. And I'm just going to call this See Online Help. And I'm just going to put it there at the root, replace the text. Okay. And I'll save. Now, this makes sense to show this content in print output, not the online output, because I'm telling people, oh, go see the online help for more information. So I could insert the snippet, and then I could go and right click and go to conditions, and I could put my print condition on that, but then I have to go put it on all these. I have to do that every place. So one other thing that I could do is let's just open up that snippet file, and I could put the condition here. And so it's automatically just included wherever I insert that snippet. It's right there. So it's already on there. Now, sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I won't. For example, with the example that I just mentioned, print only. Yeah, I have a general print only condition as you saw in the previous video, but I also have more specific conditions for specific PDFs, user guides, or other PDFs. And sometimes I might have a snippet in different in a topic, and that topic is in multiple guides. And for one, I want them to see the snippet, and others I don't. So sometimes putting one snippet on or one condition on the snippet itself within the content, that will work. And other times, you're not going to be able to do that. You might have to do it out in the topic. Just wanted to bring that up because that is something that happens occasionally. As you can imagine, the more snippets that you accumulate, hundreds or thousands of them, it can be more of a challenge to find them, locate them, the ones that you need to work with. So that's why there are some things to help with that, like that quick launch little field and locating things in the Content Explorer. I'm going to show you another one, and that is auto suggestion. That can really help you find the snippet and insert it really quickly. So let's go into Flare. Now, there are some functions in Flare that are dependent on your project being analyzed behind the scenes. And if you open up the Windows Explorer where your project is stored, you're going to see you got an analyzer folder in there. And so that's where all of this information is being stored. Okay. And the larger your project is, the more time it takes to analyze it. And that's what a lot of this, what this stuff up here on the analysis ribbon has to do with. And so you can click that button, run a scan of your project. And you might notice it when you're using other features too, like the link viewer, to see what other files the active file is linked to over here on the right. Sometimes if you have a really big project and it's there still needs to be a scanning done, you will open up the file, and then you just kind of like hum the theme to Jeopardy, maybe more than once, to wait for this thing to populate. On smaller projects, it goes much faster, of course. So we're relying on this analysis scan to help us with auto suggestions. And you can enable this by going to File, Options, and this is the tab you want, Auto Suggestion. So what we're going to do is enable this thing, and we want to enable Auto Suggestion. All right, and you can use these fields to change those if you want. And I'm going to click OK. Now, I have this snippet that I created here. For more information, see the online help. And I named it See Online Help. So I have this text in other places besides just here. And so if I, let's see, if I go into another topic and I go down here and I just start typing it's matching up what I already have, and it's showing me, hey, you already got a snippet like this. So maybe I know that I want to add this snippet. I just can't remember where it is, what I've named it. So if you know that it starts a certain way, you can just start typing and go, oh yeah, that one. And then you click it, double click it actually, and it inserts it in here. So that can save you a lot of time. That can help you when you're on a team of writers and somebody else created the snippet and you get the idea to start typing the same kind of content, and it'll pop that up and it'll go, hey, this already exists. Maybe you just want to use this. So that is a nice little feature. Now, if again, the scan is going to take longer on a large project, and the one negative with this feature is you can see a performance hit if you have it enabled, because it's trying to collect all of this information. So just use your best judgment, try it out, and if you find that, oh, things are lagging a little bit too much, maybe you don't use it. But there it is if you want to try it out. Another thing that you might find yourself needing to do from time to time is to replace a snippet. You already have it inserted into a file, but you just need to swap it out for another one. I've got this topic open and this snippet down here at the bottom. And for whatever reason, maybe you're thinking, oh yeah, it shouldn't be that snippet. It should be this other one. So for example, I've got this, the new snippet one over here that I created long ago, and I am going to right click this. So instead of going, oh, delete this and then space and then insert, reinsert it, you can just right click on the thing, save yourself a little bit of time and select select new snippet. And then you just go into your into here and you choose it. And you can also, if it's something that you used recently, you can choose it from this list, or else you can just navigate to it up here. I'll choose it right here. And you go, yeah, that's the one I want, and click OK, and it's replaced. Simple little thing, but you might find yourself doing it sometimes. Another little thing that you might do once in a while is convert a snippet that's inserted into a file, convert that back into text. And that might sound a little weird. Like, why would I do that? I went to all the trouble of putting it into a snippet. Why do I want to go backwards? It can actually be more useful than you might think. I'm going to go into my big project and show you one example of how I use it. Okay, so I just created this simple little new topic in here. And one of the things that I use this for is when I am creating content that has a responsive layout. And what I'm talking about is when you've got a structure of content that's sort of like a table, and some content in one cell, some content in another cell, or maybe more cells than that, and it's side by side. But then when you go to a smaller screen, it stacks, so it's responsive. It looks good both on a big screen and on a small screen. So I'll show you an example of that. So here's a topic in the online help output, and you can see that instead of putting this content one above the other, I put them side by side, so you can quickly look and see, oh, which thing do you want to know? And then if someone's looking at that on a smaller screen, it stacks one piece of content above the other. All right, so that's done with a responsive layout, and I have a whole movie on that. If you want to get into the details, I'm of course not going to, regurgitate that whole thing here. But what I do is I actually come down here in the Content Explorer under Templates, and then under Snippets, I created some snippets down here. See, I'm storing these outside of the resources folder in this case, just because this is really quick access for me to get to these particular snippets. So what do these look like? Well, I'll open one up, and it's very simple. It looks like a table, but it's a responsive layout. And I've got 3 cells in this case, because the number always adds up to 12. So in this case, it's 444. So I've got 3 cells of equal width, or it might be 8, 4, 2 cells. One is 2/3 of the space, one is 1/3 of the space. All right. So I can create these using this responsive layout window pane. But the thing is, every time I use one of these, I don't necessarily want to go into my topic where it is and then go open up my responsive layout window pane and insert the thing, choose which one. So what's really easy for me, I already have these configured. And so I could just click and drag the thing over into my topic. And it's a snippet. So what I did in these snippets was in each one, I just created a very simple layout here with XXX in each cell. So I know that I need to replace it with something. So I just drag it into there, right click, convert to text, put in my content, go on my way. So it's a time saver. And that is one reason why I use it. You might come up with other reasons, or maybe you used to have a snippet that was in multiple places, but now it's just in one topic and it doesn't make sense to have it a snippet anymore. Maybe you use it for that reason. But there you go. You can convert snippets back to text real easily. going to give you another time saver, and that is pinning snippets. Because if you looked at a large project like mine, thousands of snippets that I've got in there, the reality is most of those I don't insert. I hardly ever or never insert them, but they're there. They're important because I do have pieces of content in multiple places and I want to maintain it in one place. But really, when it comes to inserting, I've found that, look, there's just a limited number that I'm inserting a lot. Most of the others are just kind of sitting there. And so what I can do to save time so that I don't have to go track these down, use one of these other methods to find them, is I can pin the snippets. So back in my big project, what I've done is if I wanted to insert a new snippet and I don't have, I don't have my Content Explorer open, or I don't have it expanded down to where I need it, what I can do is go to this insert a snippet, drop down right here, and you can see it lists my recently used snippets. There's the responsive layout one that I just inserted. But then I pin the ones that I'm using a lot. For example, the one I showed you on saving files. Well, I don't have to go track the thing down. I just click there and there you go. You just insert it. And it's real easy to pin these. You just go down to a place where you have just inserted one, and you hover over on the right side where that pin is, and you just click it, and it adds it up to the top, right? And then if I decide I don't use it so much, unpin it. So, and you can pin other types of files also in Flare, but snippets is definitely one that you would use a lot. So there you go. Save yourself some more time. Let's talk about file reviews, because chances are you're creating a lot of documentation. You want somebody else to look at that. And in Flare, you have a few choices. One, you can send files for review to people up on MadCap Central, or if you're using MadCap Contributor, you can send them like that. Or if it's just other authors, you can review each other's stuff in the same Flare project. And I want to show you something when it comes to sending files for review and snippets. All right, so this is a topic in my big project. And as you look down through it, you can see, all right, I got a snippet there, and then I got a set of steps, and I've got a snippet there. Down below, there's more snippets that have different kinds of content in them. So it's pretty snippet heavy topic in here. And I want to send this for a review. So I go up to the review ribbon, click send for review. And what happens is it loads the topic, and it also loads all of the snippets in it. And then I can use the wizard to go through and send this to one or more people. The thing is, when people get one of these files for review, it depends on who you're sending it to. You send it to another author, okay, they know what snippets are. They get Flare more than like a subject matter expert. A subject matter expert, somebody else in your company who doesn't know any of the software, they don't know what a snippet is. That could be confusing. And so what you might want to do is be picky about what snippets you include. So for example, maybe if you're thinking, hey, I don't care if they like open the content file or do this thing right here, or go all the way to the bottom and then click save or click OK. Those little ones that you're very familiar with, that you use a lot, and they're pretty much just kind of set, maybe you just remove those from the review process. But others, like this stuff down here, is more substantial, and you really want them to look it over and let you know whether it needs to be changed or corrected or something. So when you send this for review, what you can do is look through your snippets in here, and I see, oh, okay, open the content file. They don't need that. Just click that, get rid of that, do one of the following, don't need that, and you just kind of work your way down, click OK, yeah, I don't need that, and save file, whatever. You decide what goes in and what stays out as far as the snippets are concerned. And then if people do get the snippets, say in MadCap Central, and I do have videos, by the way, on all the review processes, both for Central and for contributor. So you really want to see the details, check those videos out. But if you're sending it, say, to Central, well, they can open up the individual snippets and make comments and things like that. But if you happen to leave a snippet out and they want to make a comment on it, they can still insert an annotation or a comment around it. So just a little bit to know if you are doing file reviews using Central or Contributor. Finally, I mentioned the analysis ribbon earlier in this video. I want to go back there because there are some really neat features on the analysis ribbon that you might want to use that could save you a whole lot of time and really enhance your snippets. So the first thing we want to do actually is go to our options dialog, because we want to enable some scanning. So in here, you come down to the project analysis tab, and we've got all these options in here. And remember, this analysis feature can put a hit on your performance, how well the Flare project is responding. And so you might want to just test this out. And the larger the project, the longer the analysis takes to scan your files. But I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to tell it to collect segments, and I'm going to tell it to collect snippet prospects. What it's going to do is it's going to go look for content that is the same and might be good places to convert into snippets. So I'm going to click OK here. All right, now let's go up to the analysis ribbon, and I'm going to start over here under suggestions. And actually, before I do that, let's go look back over here at this topic where I have that snippet. For more information, see the online help. And I actually added that text, not the snippet, but the same text to multiple topics in here. It's not just those, but even more than that. And I actually cleaned up the project more because I had a bunch of lorem ipsum stuff in here, and I didn't want that to kind of confuse things and clutter up what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go to suggestions. And the first thing I want to look at is snippet suggestions. And it scans, and it is telling me, hey, I found all of this content that would be good to turn into a snippet. And you already got a snippet, and the snippet is here. It's called See Online Help, the one that I created before. And I found some text that matches that in these topics in here. And I'm going, oh, okay. So what I could do then is apply that snippet to those areas, and they all become snippets. The other thing that you could do is come up here to suggestions and go to frequent segments. And now you're going to see this kind of the same thing. What it's doing is it's saying, hey, I found this identical text in all these places, and I could then go in and say, yeah, create a snippet for that. Well, first I'm going to try the snippet suggestions, because if you count in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's 10 of these. 10 that match my snippet, whereas the frequent segments is 11 because it's counting the content that's already in that one snippet. And so I don't want to create a recursive situation here. So the first thing is, let's just use the snippet that I've already got. If I didn't already have a snippet, if something shows up in here, then I probably would go in here and say, yeah, let's create a snippet from all of this. But I'm going to come here. I'm just going to select all of these and say, yeah, I forgot to insert the snippet. I just typed the text. Silly me. Let's go apply this snippet to all those places. So click that. It's going to say, okay. Now, so I am going to click OK. And what it did was it updated those 10 files. And now it's not finding any entries because it made all those changes. So now this is where we started with that snippet. These, remember, were text before, but now they're snippets in here. All right, cool. So that saved a whole lot of time. And now if I go look, let's look at our frequent segments in here. It's not bringing up that list anymore because now that it's not, all 11 segments, it's just one. Okay, so that is something that you can do with snippets. Another thing that you can do is run this report. You come in here to more reports. I actually use this report a lot for unused content files. So it's unused items, and there's all these things that you can select. And you can select images and condition, things that you've created, but you're not using. So you might come in here and select unused content files. And what it's doing is, so I have these other snippets in here, and I removed the reference to them from before, where I had inserted them into files. And now they're just kind of hanging out there. This new snippet and this FAQ stuff, they're just not being used anywhere. So you might use this report sometimes to clean up files that aren't being used. I'll use it to clean up things like snippets and images and things that I once used, but I don't use anymore. And it just helps to lighten that project up. So that's another thing you can do. One final word when it comes to this analysis stuff. If you happen to run into issues with it, one of the real common things to do is to go into Windows where you have your project, and there's the file, the folder right there. And what I would do is close my Flare project, and you can just delete that folder, same as your output folder. You don't want to delete content or projects or this, but you could delete an analyzer. And then when you relaunch, when you reopen your Flare project, it's just going to do a fresh scan. Sometimes, every once in a while, that's necessary to do. It helps just kind of clean things up and clear it out. That's just something that I learned over time, and our tech support department will tell you the same thing if you call into them and you're having problems with the analysis. All right, so we made it through our video on snippets. As you can see, it can be really easy to create these and insert them and just go, but there's lots of little other things that you can do and just get the most of these things, because trust me, you are going to want to use them in your Flare project. They are essential to single sourcing. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where I'm going to talk about snippet conditions. And you're like, what? All right, so I'm kind of combining snippets and conditions. Very cool thing. I'll explain it in that next video.